Welcome, my dear residents. It is my endeavor to bring the clinical discussions in surgery closer to all those general surgery residents who are having a feeling of a insufficient exposure to the clinical discussions and feeling insecure to face the examination. I am presenting clinical discussion series of important topics of a general surgery for the benefit of a residents in general surgery through YouTube. My updated knowledge and 35 years of experience as a medical teacher and examiner has helped to bring out this series useful to face any examination in surgery. This breast series 1 starts with the clinical discussion on breast swelling history. Yes, present the case.
Srimati Susila, 50-year-old woman, a housewife resident of Hyderabad, complains of a swelling in the right breast. History of a present illness. She noticed the swelling while bathing 6 months ago. To start with, it was a small grape size and rapidly increased to lemon size. It is not associated with pain, discharge from nipple, bony pains, cough or weakness in the limbs. There is no history of recent retraction of the nipple. She does not suffer from any other disease.
Yeah. Now the point is what are the swellings in the breast associated with the pain?
Acute mastitis.
Okay, but there are other conditions also which produces pain, such as a breast abscess. Either it is a acute or a chronic, tuberculosis of the breast, and fibroadenosis of the breast also presents with a pain in the breast. Yes. What are the causes of a nipple discharge?
Duct papilloma, duct papillocarcinoma.
Okay, they are the common things, but the other things are also there. We can classify into subgroups, such as a discharge from the surface of the nipple. One is a Paget's disease. Two, skin conditions such as eczema or scoriasis of the nipple and areola, and a rare causes being the chancre of the nipple and sometimes even fissure on the nipple during the breastfeeding phase. So that is the discharge from the surface. The discharge from the single duct, a blood stain discharge is due to the intraductal papilloma or intraductal carcinoma or 3 duct ectasia. A serous discharge may be due to number 1 fibrocystic disease, number 2 duct ectasia, number 3 a carcinoma. Discharge from more than one duct, that is suppose if it is a blood stain, a carcinoma 1, number 2 duct ectasia, number 3 fibrocystic disease also. A blackish or a greenish discharge seen in number 1 duct ectasia and a fibrocystic disease of the breast. Purulent discharge is noticed in the infection, breast infection such as a mastitis. The serous discharge is noticed in fibrocystic disease, duct ectasia, and carcinoma. Milk discharge is noticed physiologically during lactation and also late phases of the pregnancy, and the rare causes being the sometimes pituitary tumor and resulting into hyperprolactinemia may cause a continuous milk secretion, and even in hypothyroidism also may result into this secretion, milk secretion. Why did you ask about the bony pains and the bony swellings in this case?
In carcinoma breast, bony metastasis causes bony pains, bony swellings, and fracture of the bones.
What are the bones commonly involved?
Ribs, femur, and skull bones.
Yes, they are correct. But thing is, if you divide or if you classify in a group, a flat bones, ribs, sternum, skull bones, pelvic bones are affected. Long bones such as the upper ends of the humerus, tibia and lower end of the femur are affected. Vertebra also are affected. Why the metastasis occurs in the above bones only?
I don't know.
Active hemopiesis is going on in these bones of the adults. The malignant cells from carcinoma of breast reaches bones by bloodstream, get entangled in the hemopoietic tissue of the above bones and grow to become a metastasis, deriving nutrition or nourishment from the hemopoietic tissue. This metastasis causes a bony pains, bony swellings and a fractures. What is the cause of a fracture of a bone in these patients?
Majority of bone metastases are osteolytic in nature. They cause fractures of the bones.
How do the breast carcinoma spreads?
By blood spread, through venous spread, lymphatic spread and by contiguity.
Right. Why did you ask about cough and breathlessness in this patient?
It is due to metastasis in the lungs.
Right. Carcinoma of breast causes a pulmonary metastasis, clinically manifested as consolidation, pleural effusion, pleurisy, and pneumonitis, presented with the symptoms of cough, breathlessness, and hemoptysis. What is the cause of a weakness in the limbs?
It is due to the metastasis in the brain.
Yes, the weakness in the limbs, paraplegia, etc., motor and sensory deficiencies are due to metastasis in the brain and spinal cord. Yeah, continue with the history.
Past history. Past illness. There is no history of exposure to radiation. No history of taking oral pills. No history of hormone replacement therapy. No history of any breast complaints previously.
What is the importance of a past history of exposure to radiation and having a HRT, hormone replacement therapy?
I don't know.
Exposure to ionizing radiation after the 10 years of age, after the age of 10 years, increases the chances of a development of a carcinoma of breast. For example, in the treatment of a Hodgkin's lymphoma, if the patient is not properly protected with the radiation in the breast region. Use of a estrogen containing pills and hormone replacement therapy of a more than 10 years duration increases the chances of a carcinoma of breast. What is the importance of a previous breast diseases?
Atypical hyperplasia of the breast has got moderate risk of development of carcinoma of breast.
Right. Go ahead with the history.
Personal history. She attained menarche at the age of 13 years and still not attained menopause. No history of menorrhagia or polymenorrhea. She has 3 children. She had a first child at the age of 18 years. All the 3 children were breastfed for 1 year. She is not alcoholic and smoker, and she takes mixed diet.
What is the importance of a knowing age of a menarche and menopause?
Increase in reproductive age has got more risk of developing carcinoma of breast.
Yes. The age between the menarche and menopause is called as a reproductive age. There is a slightly increased risk of developing carcinoma of breast with the increase in the reproductive age due to increased number of menstrual cycles and prolonged exposure to the estrogen. So, nulliparous women also have an increased risk. What is the relationship between the breast carcinoma and breastfeeding?
Breastfeeding decreases the risk of developing carcinoma of breast.
Yes, more than 1 year of a breastfeeding will decrease the risk of development of a carcinoma of breast. During the breastfeeding, raised prolactin levels suppresses the FSH, inhibiting the ovulation, resulting in decreased estrogen secretions. Decreased estrogen levels in the body decreases the chances of a development of carcinoma of breast. It is observed that breastfeeding is beneficial if the first child is born before the age of 20 years. Is there any relationship between carcinoma of breast and alcohol intake?
High alcohol intake is associated with increased risk of development of breast. Alcohol consumption is known to increase the serum levels of estradiol.
Right. Continue with the history.
Family history. Patient's mother died from the bilateral carcinoma of breast prior to attaining menopause. Patient's elder sister died from the ovarian carcinoma at the age of 42 years.
What is the importance of a family history in carcinoma of breast?
Carcinoma of breast runs in the family.
Yes. Nearly 5% of a carcinoma of breast are due to inheritance of a genetical abnormalities. These breast carcinomas runs in first degree relatives. Risk is much higher if the relative has suffered from the carcinoma of breast before the age of a menopause or a bilateral breast carcinoma. What are the high risk genes?
BRCA1 and BRCA2.
Not only that one, BRCA1, BRCA2, P53, PTEN and SKT11 are the some of the tumor suppressor genes transmitted in the families. What is the function of the above genes?
These genes produce tumor suppressor proteins with disease susceptibility. Mutations in these genes are the reason for the carcinoma development.
Right. What are the genetic abnormalities and how are they transmitted?
I don't know.
Mutations, deletions and insertions of a DNA seen in the above genes results in malfunction of a protein. These genes are inherited as a autosomal dominant genes with a limited penetrance. So all those people who have got these genes are not affected because of a limited penetrance. Even though they are autosomal dominant, they are present in the people, but not all of them are affected only because of a limited penetrance. What percentage of women with a BRCA mutant genes have a risk of developing carcinoma?
I don't know.
In BRCA1, 60 to 85% of a woman have a cumulative lifetime risk of a developing carcinoma of breast and 40 to 60% have a risk of developing ovarian carcinoma. In BRCA2, 50 to 85% of a carcinoma of breast and 10 to 35% for the ovarian carcinoma. So these are the risks of developing. That means not 100% of the people who are having this mutant genes likely to develop a carcinoma. So 60 to 85% in BRCA2, BRCA1 and 50 to 85% only will develop, others will escape. That means other factors are also there for the development of a carcinoma of breast in addition to the mutant carcinoma genes. What are the specific features of a carcinoma of breast related to BRCA1 and BRCA2 mutations?
They are triple negative cancers, carry bad prognosis.
Right. These are poorly differentiated carcinomas and aggressive in nature. They are of an invasive variety and they are triple negative carcinoma. That means absence of estrogen and progesterone receptors and HER2 receptors. And the early onset of a carcinoma breast is seen in BRCA1. What other carcinomas are associated with BRCA1 and BRCA2 mutations?
Ovarian carcinomas, endometrial carcinomas.
Not only ovarian and endometrial carcinomas, there can be a melanoma, a pancreatic and prostatic cancers also likely to occur in these patients, in families. The males are more commonly affected in BRCA2 mutations. What are the different categories of the breast carcinomas depending on the genetical and hormone receptors?
I don't know.
We can divide, depending upon the genetical and hormonal receptor status, we can divide the breast carcinomas as a luminal A, luminal B, HER2 receptors positive, number 4 basal-like carcinoma. So, four types: luminal A variety, luminal B variety, HER2 receptor positive variety, and lastly basal-like carcinoma. So what are these? Number 1, luminal A, wherein estrogen receptors and progesterone receptors, that means ER and PR positive, HER2 receptors are negative. In these patients, they respond well to the hormone therapy. So the hormone therapy is beneficial in this patient, but chemotherapy also can be given. Luminal B variety, where estrogen receptors are positive, progesterone receptors are negative, HER2 receptors are positive. That means estrogen receptors positive and HER2 receptors positive and progesterone receptors only negative. Chemotherapy is beneficial in this patient and hormone therapy also can be given. HER2 receptor positive third variety, where the ER and PR are negative. That means ER receptors, estrogen receptors and progesterone receptors are absent. Only HER2 receptors are positive. So chemotherapy can only be given in these cases. No hormone therapy is useful. The fourth variety being a basal-like carcinoma, where a triple negative carcinoma, this is likely to be benefited by only chemotherapy. The basal-like carcinoma will not have estrogen receptor, progesterone receptor or HER2 receptors. Anything will be absent. So they are less likely to be benefited with the hormone therapy, only likely to be benefited by the chemotherapy. They carry a bad prognosis. What is the advantage of this categorization?
I don't know.
Effective treatment can be given based on this division, preventing the aggressive treatment where it is not required. That means, suppose if the patient is having a ER and PR positive, so in those patients, the hormone therapy will be beneficial and useful, and there is no need to go for the aggressive chemotherapy in those patients, even the patient has come in early phases. So there is no need to give a chemotherapy in those patients. Early phases only I am talking, not for the late phase. Late phases we may have to use all the modalities of treatment sometimes. But in early phases, there is no need, and a less risk prone patients. We are going ahead with the less risk prone. Who are the less risk prone patients in a carcinoma breast? In the future discussions, we are going to talk about it. But here, what I am going to tell you is a simple basic principle being the patient who is having less risk prone patient having a ER and PR positive, and that patient can be treated with the hormone treatment. So anti-tamoxifen can be given in that type of a patient, and there is no need of a chemotherapy, which sometimes causes more of a toxicity. So this type of situation can be tided over. And in case of a basal-like carcinoma, there is no point of giving hormone therapy at all because the hormone receptors are absent. So only chemotherapy is useful. So like that, we can choose a proper treatment for effectively for the when we categorize this type of a patient. What are the other high risk genes? What syndromes are associated with them?
I don't know.
Number 1, P53 genetic mutations will be in the Li-Fraumeni syndrome. See, P53 genetic mutations is associated with the Li-Fraumeni syndrome, which in this syndrome, the early onset breast carcinomas are common, and apart from that, soft tissue sarcomas, head and neck carcinomas, cholangiocarcinomas, childhood adrenal and other malignancies also can be seen. So this is a Li-Fraumeni syndrome where P53 genetic mutation is seen. Another is a PTEN gene mutation with a Cowden syndrome. In a Cowden syndrome where there is a PTEN gene mutation, here in these cases, in this syndrome, bilateral breast carcinomas are seen. Apart from that, a thyroid, kidney, colonic, endometrial carcinomas also can be seen. It is associated with macrocephaly and a multiple hematomas. The another variety is a SKT11 gene. It is seen in Putz-Jeghers syndrome in a woman, and you know the Putz-Jeghers syndrome associated with the colonic carcinomas as well as oral melanosis, and in this patient the carcinoma breast also will be seen. On which chromosomes the high risk genes are present?
BRCA1 on 17th chromosome, BRCA2 on 13th chromosome.
You are right. BRCA1 is seen on the 17th long arm, that is a Q arm chromosome. BRCA2 on 13th Q arm chromosome. Apart from that, P53 is seen on 17th chromosome P arm, short arm. PTEN gene and seen on 10th chromosome Q arm. Okay. So this is about the today's discussion regarding the history of a breast swelling. So this finishes our history taking, and we go ahead with the further in the further series, the breast examination, the investigation and the treatment aspect of it in a separate presentation.